Welcome to Trippy Podcast. Today's topic is drugs, so go get your touch and join us for this episode.
What is the drugs?
Surely there are some who don't know what they are, so we start from that part. According to the ONU, it's any substance that introduced into the body by any route of administrations produce some alteration of the natural function of the central nervous system of the person and is furthermore susceptible to creating dependence, whether psychological, physical, or both. But for me, it's a way to escape to the reality.
I believe that a drug and something that makes you orbit on another planet and live really a little.
Good, but before we take a trip to another planet, we have to classify them, right? Because there is everything and for everyone.
That's something very important, okay? Because imagine that someone wants a drug to active themselves and using the present.
Be very careful there because when someone takes antidepressants and consumes alcohol or some other depressant, they can have seizures.
Since they talked a little about that drugs are actually declassified in many ways, but we have adopted the most shocking of all is the effect on the nervous system, which depending on the whether the drug is stimulant, the effect is positive, high vibes or hallucinogenic and depressants, the effect is like a sedative.
For example, speaking about stimulant drugs, I saw in a documentary that they cause difficult sleeping or a high state of activation, such as cocaine.
It is interesting how hallucinogens can alter the perception of your reality and your thoughts.
I have heard that a drug that alters really is LSD and hallucinogenic mushrooms.
Finally, we have the most common ones, right? The famous depressants, alcohol, and marijuana, which cause the nervous system to reduce its activity and cause that sedative or relaxation effect.
It's known that in Mexico the most consumed drugs are, in first place we have marijuana, secondly cocaine, followed by the methamphetamines, inhaled ones, and synthetic ones.
There is a great variety of drugs in Mexico, but we must remember that medications are also a drug, and some that have been used in a bad way are, for example, clonazepam and cough syrup with codeine.
But then this doubt arises, is love a drug? Because I believe that it is because it alters your body chemistry.
I think it will be a fusion of stimulant drug and depressant.
I think so in a certain way, since it stimulates you in a certain way chemically, producing dopamine and oxytocin in the brain.
Not so much love, but the process of falling in love and that they are different experiences, and each or frequency is different depending of the stage.
But just as love makes you feel in the clouds, it can also make you feel the worst. And it is in these vulnerable moments where one can end up using a drug to fill the void that was left.
You are right, Angel. An example of filling gap is the use of peyote, which many people consume to reconnect with themselves, which is said to provide clarity, introspection, and emotion balance. Who knew that a capsule could heal a broken heart? How ironic isn't it? Heals deep emotional wounds, promoting forgiveness, recollections, and self love. Be careful, I do not promote anything. For this type of healing, a psychologist is better.
But there is also ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is consumed in ritual ceremonies for spiritual, healing, and introspection purpose. Its use is due to possible therapeutic effects and its ability to induce deep psychedelic to be careful. But it's very important to be careful, guys, because I have heard that how how it acts on your body has to do with the dose, the environment, and the preparation before consumption. So it will act the same in Angel as in Valeria, for example.
In the case of cannabis, people from the Rastafari spiritual movement use it in certain ceremonies, including cannabis extracts such as hashish. In terms of experiences, personally, cannabis has been one of my favorite experiences because of the state of relaxation and creativity in which it puts you, but at the same time, you have to be careful, since sometimes a bad trip can occur.
Since I was little, I heard a lot about them. It was a topic that was talked about a lot at home. Therefore, I had not been able to try any of them other than the cigarette at around 13 years old out of curiosity, which I consider the slickest in ask for a drug. With alcohol, I started consuming it at around 17 years old. With it, I have had many experiences, pleasant and unpleasant, since I have reached extremes. With marijuana, pot, roasted, touch, with whatever name you know it. My first approach was at the university. I tried it because I was very curious and I had wanted to do it for a long time. It was a rewarding experience. I felt very calm, but I loved it a lot. I feel like I was myself and that everything else didn't matter, that everything was fine, but when the effects wore off, I experienced a horrible depression. Well, maybe because I took it with alcohol.
In reality, if I had experience with Mota, it's not something I would repeat more than anything because I don't like the feeling of losing consciousness in my five senses. I dissociate my own, and also because it is very stingy. And well, for or while I was lost laughing, and the curious thing is how time passes. In my opinion, everything was slow is perceive everything as flashbacks, and in the end, if I fell asleep and woke up, if nothing have happened.
My experience with drugs is practically nil size. I have never used them. I have only had contact with them because my friends from high school used them, but I never used them because I have not experienced with them.
But then, are there places where you can smoke marijuana?
Of course, if for example I have heard about the information place where it is known that is a very common place for all this practice. Do you know any other place?
In Mexico City, there are good places to smoke, such as in the Chapultepec forest or near the entrance to the Hidalgo metro, always discreetly, without making a fuss, of course. Maybe be careful when you are going to consume synthetic drugs such as LSD or ecstasy pills. When you consume them, always try half of them first to see how it works out for you. Since it is not something controlled, it is not new if it was prepared in a way correct.
I have heard that there are certain cannabis clubs where you can get your membership and they help you get your permit with Profeco and save you time and effort. Plus, they have cannabis products that you consume in the club, as in the case from the Playground 710 Club in the CDMX.
Now that you know where to have a joint, here's another fact. Is it estimated that about a third of people who consume cannabis are minors. It is true that if drugs are consumed in excess, they can lead to dependence in people, but just as it has its bad side, there is also a good side. They are also used in medicine to treat pain, psychological problems, or even diseases. They say well that drugs are made bad addicted by their abuse.
Yes, the younger they start to consume them, the more likely they become dependent on the substance, in addition to the fact that it damages their nervous system, which has not completely developed.
I believe that in addition, in terms of dependence, the level of maturity and rational judgment of people influence how to manage use in terms of dosage and frequency.
I agree that is still important before using drugs, that people have a good level of emotional and mental maturity to also avoid a bad trip.
I believe that is also necessary for people to inform themselves about the type of drug they are interested in and to analyze carefully whether they really need it or not, or whether it is really worth taking the risk or not, but of getting it as we love as for use it.
It looks like that the level of maturity has an influence, but so does the environment. Sometimes you start using it for a friend, to look good, or because you think nothing will happen if you continue doing it.
A person who suffers from a dependency justifies his consumption based on a relationship that has been told it adapts reality to its consumption needs and make it seems logical.
But hey guys, I think that has been enough for today. And so we come to the end of another episode of Creepy Podcast. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.